Today we're talking about the Gibson Les Paul Modern. This is IkeGuitar. Let's do this. The Gibson Les Paul Modern is a modern take on the classic instrument, featuring some out-of-the-box and some new feature sets that make it maybe a little more viable for the modern guitar player in today's world. We had Les Paul Moderns that came out maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and in my opinion, they weren't super well received, so Gibson scrapped those and have introduced the Gibson Les Paul Modern Figured. It's the Modern, but with AAA flame maple tops, and they look pretty good. I'm actually going to show you one today. The guitar features in the electronics department the most interesting of Gibson's takes so far. We've got a Gibson Burstbucker Pro humbucker in the bridge and neck, and we have a 2-volume push-pull/coil split. And you'll also get a tone knob that has a push-push bypass and a tone knob that has a push-push phase. So already the Gibson Les Paul Modern is offering players a lot of flexibility as far as the guitar's wiring, how the pickups are routed, and how your tone pots are wired. In order to get all those features, it all has to be wired on a PCB, so don't expect to see any classic wiring on this Les Paul Modern Figured. It's got a quite nice 12 to 16 inch compound radius neck. We've got ebony on the fingerboard. We've got the mother of pearl trapezoids. And then we've got a 1.695 inch nut width with the Graphtec nut. So right away you can see Gibson taking a very modern approach to their Les Paul Modern Figures. It's an interesting guitar. I'm not 100% sold on it, but I'll give you my experience with the Les Paul. So first of all, let's talk about the colorways. There are a few colorways on this Les Paul Modern Figured. We've got a seafoam green, we got a cherry burst, we got a cobalt blue. I really can't say that I'm a huge fan of these finishes. Don't get me wrong though, the figured maple, AAA maple, certainly helps. And I think what happened was that Gibson saw that the original Moderns, which came out 2 or 3 years ago, didn't perform super well in the market. It's an interesting design. Some of these features aren't traditional Les Paul specs, and so classic Gibson players weren't a fan. And so who are they trying to market to? Well, more modern Les Paul players. I can't say there are a lot of them out there, but interestingly enough, these finishes probably didn't help their resale value. I would say that they moved to a more figured top on these Les Paul Moderns because of that. You also notice things like the transparent pot caps, and you'll also notice that the pickup selector switch has a black tip without the puck on it. So there are things that there were some liberties taken with the Les Paul Modern Figures that definitely put it in a more futuristic class as far as the look of the guitar. And I think this is a attempt of Gibson to bring the Les Paul out of that classic 1950s, 60s vibe. Once again, most of their Les Pauls being sold right now are obviously going to be standards. That's kind of why they've been in the market for so long. I don't know how much of this will have an impact, but I almost believe that this is somewhat of a gimmick for Gibson because the Les Paul Moderns come and go so often. I mean, it's just a way for them to make a few extra bucks. I will say though that these Les Pauls offer a lot of really cool features that, more traditional Les Paul designs don't. And so if you're a modern player looking for something shiny and flashy and you don't like BRS, maybe this Modern is going to be more for you. But the things I like that I am surprised I liked about this Les Paul Modern Figured are going to be those tonal switching options. I think a pure bypass straight to the output jack is a really cool feature. It's something you can do on this Les Paul. Out of phase, I'm not so much a fan of, but if you like the greeny sound, having an out of phase switch is a fun thing to have on your Les Paul. So you'll notice that the tuners I have on this guitar are not stock to this guitar. They are going to be Grover locking Rotomatic tuners on the stock guitar. But what I was surprised about the most about this guitar was how great that new belly contour feels. It really does feel amazing. If you are a fan of the contour and the cutaway on this guitar, I mean, that could be the reason why you buy it, to be honest with you. And even that, the 12 to 16 inch compound radius ebony fretboard does feel really great in the hands. It marries a little bit of classic Les Paul and a little more modern Les Paul, and it feels great. I think anyone who enjoys Les Paul and has a more open mind to modern takes, I think they're going to really enjoy that. They're going to enjoy the cutaway, going to enjoy the radius. This guitar does feel and play really, really well. But should you buy one? Should you buy a Les Paul Modern Figured? Well, that's entirely up to you and where your preferences are. I would say for me personally, I am definitely more of a fan of classic Les Paul. Like, I like classic Les Paul, always have, always will. There's something timeless about a classic Les Paul's design. But if I'm looking for a guitar that has some interesting features, some cool toys and tricks and gimmicks, Les Paul Modern may be one for me. I would say that if I am going to use a out of phase option on my guitar, or if I really do enjoy, this cherry burst, which I don't really, I would say that anybody would enjoy playing a Les Paul Modern figured. I will say that these guitars don't necessarily do as well on the used market. I will say, though, that if you like the idea of a Les Paul Modern and you're willing to keep one, keep it. But for me, if you're buying one used, you can find them for $1,800. Okay, they do retail for $3,000, and you do get a really nice top with that. I also think that you may end up finding someone out in the world who would trade for one, but they're going to be few and far between. I did manage to find someone to trade this guitar. I traded this Les Paul Modern figured for a Gibson ES 335 Standard, which is going to be a little bit more in value in my opinion. And of course, everyone loves a good 335. So to me, it was an easy trade. Really what you're looking at here is you have to decide whether you want to be in a modern Les Paul camp or a classic Les Paul camp. And I think they're a bit polarizing. You are entering a area of Gibson that doesn't get a lot of love, and if the love is there, it's very sporadic. Like I said, Les Paul Moderns have been in and out of the Gibson lineup for some time. Gibson and PRS and Fender always try to do something a little different to kind of like, they have a little tiny chunk of the market they want to really market to. And I think the Les Paul Modern does that, but I don't think it's worth the time or money if you are truly a fan of classic Les Paul design. Guys, I hope you liked this video. If you liked it, please consider subscribing. I make videos all the time. Guys, Les Paul Modern is a take on Les Paul that we see here and then with Gibson, and to me, it's not my favorite, but I can't say the guitar doesn't play good or sound good. This guitar does feel really nice in the hands. The sounds are great. You can find Burst Pucker Pros anywhere though, and to be honest, throughout my playing, I just didn't have a lot of use for all of the extraneous switching options. I'm not going to use out of phase all that much. I do like pure output, but I'm not really going to use it. And if I'm going to buy a humbucker guitar, I'm not going to use a split coil. It's just like not a thing that I'm going to do. But if you guys have a Les Paul Modern figured, or you guys are thinking about buying one, let me know what your thoughts are and if you like it or not. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know what you think about Gibson reintroducing the Les Paul Modern as a figured option, and I look forward to hearing you guys next time on our next episode of IkeGuitar.